guys, it's Lauren with Discover Double Bass, and today I wanted to talk about thumb position, and in particular, how to make thumb position easier. Now I know that part of the instrument is difficult to play in, the strings are higher, there's a lot of tension going on, it's so vastly different in so many ways from the rest of the instrument. But there are a few things that I see people doing that make thumb position a whole lot harder than it needs to be. So in this lesson, I wanted to give you my top 5 tips for playing in thumb position. Tip number 1 is to find the correct contact point for the thumb. So what part of the thumb are you using to press the string down? Now when people first get into thumb position, their first inclination is to use the knuckle of the thumb, right on that bone. But if you put the knuckle down on the string, then it's too far over and the thumb ends up touching the lower string. That's problematic because when you're going quickly between two strings or making a quick transition between two strings, as you so often do, then that contact of the thumb on the lower string is going to get in the way. It's going to cause a squeak, it's going to cause the string not to sound properly. It's just not going to be a good thing to have that contact there. But you can also go too far over the other way. Sometimes people will put their thumb too close to the tip of the thumb, and really that just hurts. There's not a whole lot of strength that you can get from the tip of the thumb coming down on the fingerboard, but also it's so close to the nail bed that it's just uncomfortable and you get some pain. Now what you want is somewhere in between. And if you look for something in between the thumb being too far over and too far back, then you're going to find a happy medium where you can actually see a line from the point of contact on the thumb through the first and second and third fingers. So when you hold this hand shape just naturally, you should be able to just hold the hand without any tension, too far over, too far back, anything like that. And you should be able to just see this natural line from the thumb point of contact to the first, second, and third finger. And that right here is going to really help with your strength and your speed. Tip number 2 is to take the thumb with you when you shift. So a lot of times when I see people shifting in the upper register, they'll shift with the upper part of the hand, but they'll leave the thumb behind like this. So they end up with this distorted hand shape. And what we were talking about earlier about having this natural hand shape, this is a big theme in my thought process about thumb position, just having this hand shape and thinking of it as a unit. And when you distort it like this, you're naturally weakened. It's harder to press the string down when your hand shape is splayed out and distorted like this. So that's one of the big reasons why you want to take the thumb with you. But also, it's harder for your hand to measure distance if you're constantly distorting it one way or the other. So when you're shifting, you want to make sure that you're taking the thumb with you. I think of my hand as a unit. And everywhere I go, I'm taking the thumb with me. And sometimes I like to think about my shifts in thumb position as leading with the thumb. But either way, make sure that you're taking that thumb with you. Tip number 3 is to practice the spacing differences as you get higher and lower on the fingerboard. Now, logically, we know as you get higher up on the fingerboard, the spacing between the notes gets smaller. It's like that from half position all the way to the end of the fingerboard. But it's very, very exaggerated as you get higher up, and particularly in the whole thumb position area. So it's not enough to just know it logically. We have to practice that spacing so that we can develop the muscle memory. So you want to practice things like shiftless scales across strings, static things like that in one position. Something like this shifting or shiftless scale across strings is really good because you can practice the spacing of that position, and then you can move it up to, say, the D on the A string. I started on the A harmonic here. You can move it up here, you can move it up here, you can move it back here. So things like that that are kind of static in one position are great. I have a lot of these exercises in my thumb position course, and I have a lot of different variations on this. Another type of exercise that's really good are things that get you moving but putting the fingers down. So shifting drills are really good because they're getting you moving, but I want you to do things that are getting your fingers to press down so that you can adjust to the different spacing as they're happening. So scales up the string, those are really good. My teacher has an exercise called the 4-note progressive scale that would be great for this. So that goes all the way up and all the way back down, and so it would get you really working on the spacing differences as you get higher and as you get lower. And when you practice these things, I would suggest that you're practicing with a drone, with a tuner, even with a MIDI file or something to keep you accountable pitch-wise, so that you can constantly monitor what you're doing and how you're doing with your intonation practice. Tip number 4 is to play with much lower bow placement than you think you need to. Now, just in general, as your left hand moves higher up on the fingerboard, your bow also needs to move closer to the bridge to compensate for the string essentially being cut off by the left hand and made shorter. But when people get into thumb position, they just don't go far enough, and their bow placement ends up being too high or too far away from the bridge. Now, the problem with this is it causes a muffled, more spread tone quality. That's the first thing. You don't get as much projection when you play with a bow placement that's too high. That's a very spread tone quality. And that's a very forward, direct tone quality. Now, the other issue that you get with bow placement that's too far away from the bridge is that the tone is just very inconsistent. It's hard to control. So a lot of times you hear people getting high-pitched squeaks when they're in thumb position, and that's not indicative of just playing in thumb position. That's the bow placement being too far away from the bridge. And you also, along those same lines, will hear people, or you'll see them playing these runs that are just crazy and very virtuosic, but you can't hear every note. And that almost always is going to be because their bow placement is too far away from the bridge. So when you're playing closer to the bridge with, I would just say, correct bow placement for the placement of the left hand, you get a lot more clarity, you get a lot more forward tone quality, which gets that crystal clear sound, and the tone is a lot easier to control. So one of the biggest issues with playing in thumb position, and one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give you, actually has nothing to do with the left hand and everything to do with the bow. So when you're practicing, make sure you're watching in the mirror and making sure that your bow is as far down as you can get it with the right amount of weight. You need more weight down here. And also be listening to make sure that you're getting the tone quality that you want. Now, the fifth and final tip I have for you is to cut your fingernails. Now, I preach all the time about playing with curved fingers, particularly in thumb position, but all over the instrument. It's important because I truly believe it helps with your agility, your accuracy, and it helps with the strength in your hand. But if my fingernails are even a millimeter too long, then I cannot curve my fingers. It's just impossible. So just to give you an idea, when I'm curving my fingers, the second knuckle, particularly on my index finger, is directly over the string. And my hand is also curved as if I were holding a Coke can, just without that thumb underneath. And everything is inward. So everything is in and close, and I'm really, really curving my whole hand and my fingers. So if you end up having fingernails that are too long, then your finger just can't quite press down on the tip like you need to and curve. It ends up kind of buckling back like this. So make sure you cut your fingernails regularly, and you keep an emery board right next to where you practice so you can keep your fingernails short and your hands healthy. So I hope that these 5 tips help. These are things that can apply to anyone, whether you've been playing in thumb position for a long time or you're just starting out, just getting into that area. These are things that I have to remind myself of constantly, and I've been playing in thumb position for a long time. So if you have any questions, please leave a comment underneath the video and I will answer you as soon as I possibly can. And if you enjoyed this lesson and you'd like to learn more from me, please check out my full-length course, all on thumb position, available exclusively on discoverdoublebbass.com. See you next time.